Have you ever been dating someone and things are going great, but then something just feels a little off? A weird question out of the blue or a sudden change in how she acts. It can be super confusing. Well, it turns out there's probably a reason for it. And the sources we've been digging into have a really fascinating take on what's actually going on under the surface.
So picture this. You've got a date planned, you're excited about it, everything's confirmed. Then, maybe an hour before, you get that text. Something came up, can't make it. And that's it. No real reason. Or maybe she just starts taking hours or even a full day to reply to your texts. Your mind just starts spinning, right? Is she not into me anymore? Did I say something wrong? It happens all the time, and man, it can drive you crazy.
The sources we've looked at actually have a word for these moments. They call it a test. Now, I know what you're thinking. That word sounds awful, like games, manipulation, like she's setting you up to fail. But we have to just completely throw that idea out the window. This is about a total reframe of what that word actually means. So instead of thinking of it like a pop quiz you have to pass, think of it more like a screening process. One of our sources, marriage.com, describes it as a complicated screening tool. And the most important part of that sentence, the phrase often subconsciously. This isn't always some big calculated plan. A lot of the time, it's more of an instinct, a way to get a real sense of who you are and if you're truly compatible for the long run. And here it is. This is the big perspective shift, and it comes straight from one of our sources. Her tests are not attacks. They're questions. They aren't meant to tear you down or hurt your ego. At their very core, they're simply questions. But questions about what exactly? So what's really driving all of this? Well, it's not about logic. Our sources are really clear on this point. It's about instinct. This whole thing is rooted in a deep, almost primal search for psychological and emotional safety. And really, it all boils down to this one single question. Can I trust you? And we're not just talking about trusting you not to cheat. We're talking about, can she trust you with her feelings, with her boundaries, with her vulnerability? Are you emotionally strong enough to be a safe place for her when things get tough? The way you react in these little moments, that's what gives her the answer. And the specific reasons can be all over the map. Sometimes it's a way to figure out if you're actually sincere. Or maybe she's been hurt in the past and this is her way of making sure it doesn't happen again. Ultimately, it's all about figuring out if you have the emotional maturity and the basic respect to be a real partner. All right, so we've talked a lot about the why. Now let's get into the what. What do these so-called tests actually look like in the real world? Well, the sources point to a few key patterns, and they all have to do with checking out your character and your consistency.
Oh, this one is a biggie, the character check. I'm telling you, how you treat a waiter or a barista can say way more about you than 100 compliments you give her. She's watching to see what your baseline level of respect is for people in general. And the same thing goes for how you talk about your exes or other women. It's a huge clue about how you might end up treating her one day. Hey, remember that canceled date from the beginning? That falls right into this category, what we can call the patience probe. She's seeing how you deal with a little bit of inconvenience. Do you get all bent out of shape and demanding, or can you handle it with some understanding? Your reaction really shows her how much effort you're willing to put in and if you're emotionally mature. Okay, next up is the boundary test. This is so important. She might say something like, I'm not quite ready for that yet, or I think I just need a night to myself. This isn't a rejection. It's a test of your respect for her as a person. If a guy argues or pushes back or tries to guilt her, that's a massive red flag. But a guy who just says, okay, I get it, well, he's signaling that he's a safe person to be around. Look, anybody can be Prince Charming for a few dates. But what happens when the initial chase is over? The sources really hit this point home. Consistency is everything. Are your actions still matching your words a month from now? 2 months? This long-term reliability is the ultimate proof of your real intentions and your true character.
Okay, now we get to the most important part of all of this. It's one thing to know what these tests are, but how in the world are you supposed to handle them? Well, the goal is not to pass or win like it's some kind of video game. The real point here is to use these moments to build a much deeper, more authentic connection. When you're faced with one of these situations, you basically have two paths. There's the defensive reaction, getting angry, making excuses, blaming her, which just screams instability. And then there's the secure response. That's staying calm, actually listening to understand, and showing some empathy. That's what really communicates safety.
So here are the steps, the real takeaways. Number 1, just stay calm and patient. Don't fly off the handle. 2, practice active listening. That means really hearing what she's feeling, not just the words she's saying. 3, you have boundaries too, so communicate them, but always with respect. And finally, the big one we keep coming back to, be consistent. Be that same person over the long haul. An expert quoted in marriage.com really nails it. She says every woman wants a man who is ready to hear what she's got to say, listen attentively, and respond appropriately. It's not just about letting her talk, it's about paying attention and responding in a thoughtful way. Honestly, that one skill can change everything. So let's zoom out and put this all together. The end goal here isn't to get good at passing tests. The real goal is to build a relationship that's so strong and so trusting that these kinds of tests just aren't necessary anymore. And if you only remember one thing from all this, let it be this. These moments aren't obstacles you have to get over. They are opportunities. They're a chance for you to show your true character, to prove your emotional maturity, and to demonstrate that you are a safe, trustworthy partner. Because this is what it's all about. At the end of the day, our sources agree that great relationships aren't built on mind games. They're built on these 3 pillars: real, open communication, deep mutual respect, and a genuine trust that makes all of this screening stuff totally irrelevant. Which kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about. If 2 people actually manage to build a relationship with total trust and completely open communication, do these subconscious, instinctual tests just fade away on their own? It's a question that really gets to the very heart of what we're all looking for in the end.